Well, boys and girls, you have been sitting out there so patiently, and you've been sitting so still. I would like to talk just to you for a few minutes. Now, I don't know about you, but I love Christmas movies. Anybody else love Christmas movies? Yep, been watching them all through December. And I've been noticing as I've been seeing, boys and girls, some of these Christmas movies that some of them have bad guys in them. Sort of like Christmas villains. And I'm wondering which, maybe of these six or one that you have, who is your favorite Christmas bad guy? Anybody want to shout it out? Yeah, what is it? Home Alone, the two guys, yeah, The Wet Bandits. Yeah. Well, hey, do you want to know what my favorite Christmas villain is? Nope, I'm going to tell you. It's the green guy. My favorite is the Grinch. I love the Grinch. Now, most of us know the Grinch from the 1966 animated TV special narrated by Boris Karloff. Or maybe some of you know the live-action movie with Jim Carrey in the role of the Grinch. Or then the full-length animated movie that came later with Benedict Cumberbatch voicing the Grinch. Maybe you just see the Grinch in somebody's front yard. But did you know, boys and girls, that in the beginning, the Grinch made his debut not on screen, but in a book? It's called How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Do you have this book at home? Well, it was first published way back in 1957. Some of the people in this room weren't even born yet. Some were. That was 66 years ago. And since then, this book has sold 7.5 million copies, making it the 7th most popular Christmas book of all kind of any type. It has been named among the teacher's top 100 books for children. It is number 61 on the 100 greatest picture books of all time. It's a pretty famous book. But do you know who the author, well, it's kind of just right there, isn't it? The author of this book who created the Grinch, he was a man that went by the name Theodore Geisel. That was his real name. His middle name was Seuss, and so his pen name became Dr. Seuss. I bet you know about his books, boys and girls. I bet you've read Green Eggs and Ham, Cat in the Hat, Horton Hears a Who, Hop on Pop, and my personal favorite, One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. Love that book. Now, Dr. Seuss was already a very, very successful writer by the time that he wrote How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And he even had a character called the Grinch who he had used a couple times before he wrote the book. For instance, 4 years before How the Grinch Stole Christmas was published, Dr. Seuss wrote a story with an exotic bird that was called the beagle-beaked, bald-headed Grinch. And that's him, right there. Does that look much like the Grinch, boys and girls? Well, then 1 year later, Dr. Seuss published an illustrated poem in Red Book magazine that was called The Hubbub and the Grinch. And the Grinch is the one that's not lying down. Does that look very much like the Grinch? It's not even the right color. They don't look like the real thing, do they? You might think that Dr. Seuss might have had someone who was really, really grouchy and mean that he knew somehow. Maybe it was, that grouchy uncle or that curmudgeonly neighbor or that mean teacher. Maybe Dr. Seuss knew somebody like that. And it turns out, boys and girls, that he did. There was someone who was grouchy and curmudgeonly and mean. And so Dr. Seuss based the Grinch on himself. He was brushing his teeth in the morning, the day after Christmas one year, when he noticed that he didn't quite feel right. He looked in the mirror and he saw a very Grinchish face staring back at him. Have you ever looked in the mirror and seen kind of a cranky face? That's what he saw. And to be honest, boys and girls, he had some pretty good reasons to be Grinchish that Christmas. His wife was very ill and couldn't participate in the holiday as much as she wanted. And he was upset that Christmas had become so commercialized. It had drifted so far away from its message. So, Dr. Seuss wrote about the Grinch to rediscover something about Christmas that he had lost. And guess what? Years later, when he decided that he wanted to get a personalized license plate for his car, which of all of his creations, all of the characters of his book did he choose? Was it Thing 1, Thing 2? Was it Cat in the Hat? Was it Lorax? No, when he got a personalized license plate, this is the one he got. Because he identified with the Grinch. Need another clue? There's a line in the book that says, "For 53 years I've put up with it now." Do you remember that line? Guess Dr. Seuss's age when he wrote The Grinch That Stole Christmas. A few years later, after How the Grinch Stole Christmas was published, there were two kids from New Jersey who wrote a letter to Dr. Seuss. Their names were Bob and David. Their last name was Grinch. No kidding. Bob Grinch and David Grinch. And they wrote a letter to Dr. Seuss to complain that they got teased at school and around town at Christmas time, and that their name was associated with a monster. And Dr. Seuss wrote them back, and he said to them, no, the Grinch actually is a hero. He is a changed man, not a monster. Tell those other kids, it's not where you start, it's where you end up. And so at the start of the story, boys and girls, you know it. You can talk about it with me. The Grinch is really irritated and he's really angry. You can just tell on his face. And why is he so angry? Why is he so angry? Because he is tired of how the Who's down in Whoville celebrate their Christmas and how noisy it can get. So, when all the Who's are asleep in their beds on Christmas Eve, the Grinch decides that he's going to put a stop to it. So he puts on a fake Santa disguise and steals all of the Who's Christmas stuff to haul it away and then dump it over a cliff. But even though they awoke to find all of their stuff gone, all the Who's, the tall and the small, still celebrated Christmas. And they sang a song of joy. Here's how Dr. Seuss describes what happens to the Grinch next. And if it's okay, boys and girls, I'm going to give you my best Grinch impression. The Grinch, the narrator says, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. He puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew how many times, boys and girls? 3 times that day. It was already 2 sizes too small, but then it grew 3 sizes that day. He brought everything back to the Who's, and the last page of the book shows the Grinch at their Christmas feast, and he, yes, the Grinch himself, is carving and serving his neighbors their roast beast. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Pastor Craig, this is the Christmas Eve candlelight service at church. We shouldn't be talking about the Grinch. We should be talking about Jesus. Well, that's a good point. And it's because what happened to the Grinch is something that Jesus came to Bethlehem, was born in Bethlehem so that we could have the same. You and me, all of us. Just like the Grinch had his heart grow 3 sizes that day, Jesus is already working in your heart, boys and girls, to expand it so it's big enough for him to come in and enter and live and transform you. When Jesus lives in our heart, we do the same things that the Grinch did. We care more about people than possessions. We respect each other's cultures and traditions. We share joy, not hate. We welcome others despite our big differences. How would you like Jesus to grow your heart this Christmas, boys and girls? Would you like to be kinder, more confident, a little bit more humble, maybe a little bit more loving to those around you? All you have to do, you can do right now. Ask Jesus to come into your heart. Well, just like the Grinch had his heart grow 3 sizes that day, Jesus is coming to give us an even deeper message. Sometimes in your life, you will find yourself feeling lonely, scared, angry, or sad. The people around you are going to irritate you, or disappoint you, or frustrate you. A hopeless thought might come into your head at that moment that it's never going to get any better. You will want to remember, boys and girls, that Jesus wants to work with you so you can change, just like the Grinch did. And that transformation will change the way that you do things. Even now, you can pray to him for healing in your heart, and he is going to do it. It will restore your joy, which is your deepest strength. It will bring you back to people who you wronged or people that wronged you, and you will find forgiveness and restoration. And at the end of the story, people will remember how much you gave to them, not how much you took from them. So just as the narrator said at the end of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the TV special, and you can say it along with me if you'd like, welcome Christmas, bring your cheer, cheer to all who's far and near. Christmas Day is in our grasp as long as we have hands to clasp. Christmas Day will always be just as long as we have we. welcome Christmas while we stand heart to heart and hand in hand. Amen.